Okay, are you ready? Yeah, hello. We're both Alex and Dennis. I want to introduce a bit myself so you can understand and have a context about our presentation. I'm working for Deutsche Telekom. It's one of the leading European telecommunications companies. Some of you also know T-Mobile US, which is now kind of more presented, but in the most countries in Europe we have our brands, and we have 230,000 employees in 54 countries, so we're kind of a global company, but acting like a typical German company. So 50% of our employees and 50% of our revenue is still in Germany, and the rest is fragmented all around the world. And I'm originally in the corporate communications department at Deutsche Telekom since 11 years. We had quite a little bit of changes, and I'm there responsible for the so-called social intranet or social collaboration platform, which we are talking about today. And yeah, I hand over to Dennis.
So I'm Dennis. This is really sensitive. So I'm partner at EDAC, or now EDA. So we are also organizing this conference here. And we are actually working with Alex for 6 years now. So he was one of our first clients when we started the company. And since then we are supporting Alex with his platform on many different levels. So we started with user experience design and then moved up together with him to tackle enterprise design challenges.
Yeah, so we needed a small context. We have a social intranet which is called You and Me, but we started 10 years ago with a lot of different social media applications around the company. So we wanted to leverage kind of the power of connections in a company. Sounds like bullshit, but it's not bullshit. We are really passionate about this because if you just see what people are doing with those kind of tools, if they are just connected and if you foster this kind of interaction, you still believe in it, and that's why I'm for 1 decade on the same topic in this company. But from that, there was kind of a emerging phase, and then we started a consolidation phase. So that means that we put all these social media applications together and started in a so-called enterprise social network. So there are a lot of terms for it, and not the one term which really represents what it's doing. And from there we started next to typical classical intranets, powered just by corporate editorial teams, a platform where basically everybody could be a creator, could comment on content, could create content together with other people. And this was the telecom social network, and from there we had a global accessible platform, which is the real story about this, because we have grown out our governance within the company, because we have a global platform right now which is accessible for every employee in this company worldwide, but we don't have international governance for IT or for HR or for corporate communications. So our platform is basically much bigger than the governance of our company, which is still very, very fragmented. And we have kind of a powerful intranet called You and Me, but around this we have still a lot of different platforms. You don't have to know what it is, but this is what it looks like for most of our employees. It looks very different. It has different approaches, different departments behind it. So it's kind of a very heterogeneous world, and not just from the experience side, but also how it's powered and how it's disconnected, I would say. And as we could see how powerful You and Me is, with more than 100,000 users who are creating a lot of stuff. Just to give you one number, we have now 870,000 user-generated contents on this platform. It's much bigger than the intranet I know from 10 years ago from a corporate communications, where just a small editorial team decided what's important and what's not. We thought, okay, this is a great opportunity to bring people, to bring platforms, and to bring different perspectives in this company together. And that's why we challenged ourselves and said, okay, let's start from this big chance we have and bring a one-place vision into this company. The thing is, we don't have the governance, so that means we started as in a real kind of thing as rebels in this company to bring this up and to orchestrate all the other platforms around you and me, and to create one experience and one global co-creation platform for this company and also for this organization. And this is basically the start of our biggest work right now, and also the introduction to the presentation and the enterprise design approach we have. Because when you just ask managers in our company, how would you solve this problem, they would say, okay, let's buy something from Microsoft. It will solve everything. So, and the problem is that a lot of people think because it's digital, it means also it's an IT challenge. But of course, it's not an IT challenge. It's much more than that. It's an organizational challenge, and that's why we had a much broader approach to solve this kind of problem in this company. And I hand over to Dennis to explain the process.
So when we tackled this organizational challenge, we took our enterprise design approach. I'm on this project together with Katharina, by the way. She's not here, unfortunately. Just wanted to mention her because we did all of this together. So first of all, it looks more or less like your general design thinking process, but we just trying to lift it to the enterprise level and the enterprise complexity we are dealing with. So we are basically starting with an engage phase, where we trying to frame the discussion in the organization to discuss the topics and the questions that are actually relevant to us, and to involve the necessary stakeholder for that. And we also try to identify, first of all, the aspects that are relevant to our design. Then we have the classic design phases, like discovery, defining, ideate, validating our designs, and then implementing it. But we didn't stop there, but we keep it one step further to the delivery and the operation of our design. Because what happens most of the time if you hire, for instance, innovation consultancies, is that the projects at some point fizzle out. So you have great designs, everyone is happy with it, but it fails in the actual transformation, delivery, or operation of the new concept. So when we started to get our mandate, actually, by reframing the discussion back from an IT challenge to an organizational challenge, we could start with our discovery phase. And for that, we unfortunately did not have the opportunity that Clara has. And I really envy you for that you could visit all those great companies and look at their models. We had to stick to the literature for that, and our own experience, of course. And we interviewed everyone that is involved in the delivery of our offerings. So we talked to the developers, to the designers, the project managers, but also to the strategists that are one level above, and the operation teams, like the support or the test team, and the community managers, which they basically replace the marketing in a customer-facing software. And all our findings we stored in this project journey map. Of course, you can't read anything here, but we just identified several phases of the delivery of our offerings, and we stored all the information, all the activities that are happening in these phases, and the information that is requested or exchanged between different actors. And we also collected the tools that they are using and the pain points that appeared during this process. And some of these pain points are that most of you are probably familiar with it. People are missing a overarching strategy. They just miss the information that they need to do their job. And they are struggling with rigid processes that are in place and that actually keeping them away from delivering the best offerings to the users. And with the findings of our research, we invited the core team of You&Me to do a enterprise design strategy sprint. I'm not sure who of you is familiar with design sprints. So it's a method that has been made popular by Google and GV, and it's basically used to validate a hypothesis for a new feature or product idea without actually developing and implementing it. So they gather a team for a small, intense 5 days workshop and generate an idea, build a prototype, test it with users, and get out of it with a validated prototype. Google and GV are basically only using this method for product development, but we think that there is much more potential in it. So in this case, we were using this method to actually design our strategy. And we always talk a lot about the how and the what in our design work. But one of the greatest values that we noticed in our sprints is that it makes the why really visible to all the participants. And in this method, you also include people that are usually not working on this high-level big picture and usually just don't really feel connected to the purpose and the why with their work. So we worked in 4 teams on these basic topics, like information, how to get the information to people that really need it in the right time, how to work in an agile way. This might seem old-fashioned for most of you, but since we have really rigid corporate IT waterfall processes in place, we have to somehow work around them and find ways how we could integrate our agile way of working into the processes that are in place. And we also worked on the big picture. So how can we develop a shared vision across all participants in the product delivery? And these participants are not only from different departments within the organizations, but also different companies or different countries. So they are across all over Europe, and sometimes suppliers and contractors. Sometimes they bring their own money, so you don't really buy their work. But we need to find a way to just synchronize our goals so that they are not working against each other. And one thing that we do with these insights is that we create these big picture maps that are showing the colleagues how the different topics, the different challenges in our project are actually interrelated. So we see the very obvious thing on the right side, the fragmented employee journey with different experiences, and actually no one knows where to do what and where to find what. But why do we not just change that? It's because we have rigid processes in place. We have no ongoing accountability for our products because we are working in projects, and if the project is finished, there is no one to take care of it anymore. And we also have a missing link between the user needs and the demands that lead into a new development. And based on the results from our workshop, one of them was, for instance, a checklist how to work in an agile fashion without contradicting the processes that are in place, so that we can have minor releases without following the full process and still have our major releases that are where there are lots of dependencies. And we took these insights and put it into a vision for tomorrow. So again, we have our one place vision for the future, the new processes that we are developing, and also the new organization that I will show in the next slides. So I want to start with the one place vision. It's basically the hub vision that we heard about tomorrow and this morning in the keynote, because for us it felt like the only way to synchronize the services that we have in place. But at the same time, as Alex told you before, there is no overarching governance, so we can't actually affect all the services that exist in the organization. So we introduced this concept of the connecting services, and these are tools that can be used by other platforms with their own governance, but connect the information to our core platform. And here's a short overview what we have in mind there. It's an overarching navigation, for instance, where they can just partner with us, or an enterprise search, so that employees can search all over the different platforms, or tools like the recommendations engine, or video or analytics that they can use and apply to their platforms, or also, of course, an API to share information. And then we redesigned the processes, so we have the major release process in place, and we try to at least add some agile details to it, some feedback loops, some integration of user feedback and user testing, so that we can adapt to new findings during the process. But of course, it's still really slow. It's limited to 3 releases per year. And we have the agile processes for low complexity tasks. And actually the major part of our new concept is the redesign of the team itself. And we looked at different new fashions of or new organization models, like teal organizations, holacracy, etc. And we try to take the interesting parts out of it that we feel work best for our team. And you have to keep in mind that we are doing these changes more or less bottom up. So we can't change the whole organization, but we have to find ways to work with the organization and the hierarchies that are in place. So what we did is we introduced a new strategy team, the YAM Accelerator, with its main function to define an overarching strategy and to invest in product teams that are building new products inside of this hub that can work as connecting services to integrate other platforms or to deliver standalone services that are, of course, still connected to the main ecosystem. And what we also have in this accelerator are roles that are supporting the product teams with user insights, for instance, or with their work with social partners. It's a really big thing at Deutsche Telekom compared to other companies. So you really have to be compliant to data and employee security and accessibility, etc. And of course, we have the functional teams that are doing the operation. And another thing that we took from all these organization methods are the role templates. It's basically a concept introduced by Holacracy, but I want to make clear that we did not apply Holacracy to our organization, so we don't do all this meeting stuff, etc. We just feel that these role templates help us to create more transparency and more clarity on the domains and accountabilities. So in these role templates, we have a purpose for this role. We have domains that are defining the area of accountability and certain activities that this role is accountable for. So everyone outside this team or also inside this team know what this role is doing and what it can provide. And we also added something that is that we named Things to Ask in the bottom that basically describes the information that you can require from this role if you need it in your own work. So when we had this concept done, it was a large document, of course, describing everything, but of course we weren't done here, but we needed to start the transformation and the validation, of course, of this concept. So what we did at first was that we invited the full team and some of the partners for a really large enterprise design sprint camp in Berlin. So we invited people from all over Europe. We had a 2-day sprint with 70 people to work on 12 different topics that were relevant for the next year and facilitated by 6 sprint masters. Some of them are here. And the main purpose of this event was to engage and connect employees to this new concept and also to validate the ideas that we were working on and to communicate the vision of this new digital workplace that we have in mind, validate it with them, and to work together on the challenges for the next year. And this actually happened for the first time, that different teams with different products work at the same time, at the same place, on their new plans for the next year in order to find synergies and interdependencies between the different topics. So we closed this whole workshop with a sort of trade fair where the teams were presenting their new ideas to each other and to get feedback from other teams to see where there are interdependencies or where they can work together, actually. And here's a little quote from Alex. He said that, of course, organizing such a meeting with 70 people is a huge investment for us, but at the same time, it probably replaced thousands of small ones. And this is a great thing to achieve, actually, and we will do it again next year. If you want to read more about this design sprint camp, we actually published a sprint story on this Medium blog from GV, and you can access this with this link, eda.cx/Telekom Sprint. So the next step in our transformation and the implementation of our work was to find tools that help the product teams to work in the new fashion. And of course we have the role templates here that we already introduced, but we are also working on tools that are supporting the product teams in using, for instance, the sprint method. So we are working on a sprint playbook where they can use tools to plan a sprint, to find sprint masters, and to get support doing their own sprints. And we also design principles for different aspects of this new ecosystem. For instance, architecture principles, design principles, but also leadership principles and communication principles.
Yeah, as you can see, the whole hub strategy is about inviting people instead of forcing them to do something in a special way. So it's not really the corporate style. It's like creating an ecosystem where everybody can win. And one of the main bless you. One of the main principles is, of course, openness and transparency. It sounds so easy, but in a company like us, to be transparent is like something to be, that someone can attack you. That means being open. But we open up the whole work we are doing, of course, on our intranet itself, which we provide. So that means that everybody in our company can see what we are doing right now, how we discuss things. So that means, first of all, there is kind of we hope for a serendipity effect, so that people can discover something around their topics, so where they can connect to us or to each other. On the other hand, it's really important that we can't talk to everybody who might be involved in this kind of thing. And that's why we think that to be open is really helpful to show what we are really believing in, but also it helps us to reduce a lot of communication, because we don't have to create all the time a meeting. We just can say, hey, here it is, here's the link, you can observe us. And this is just one example where we created a group where the whole demand management is open. And that means that more than 100,000 people can watch us and also can see how we prioritize things, and they also can react to this. So that also means they can ask questions or comment on this. And this is really helpful to get in a totally different way of co-creation of an intranet. Just to give you some numbers, because is it big or not? We have now, right now, 120,000 registered users. So why is this number for me important? Because we can't force someone to register. So that means we are like on a big market, like on the internet, and we have to convince people to come to our platform. And the registration process is not as you think, like easy. You click and you are in. You really have to register once, and a lot of years people really had to log in every time when they wanted to create something. So it's, I mean, from user experience perspective, a really bad thing if your first step is something where you have to work for. So that's why 120,000 of potentially 180,000 people is really huge, and it's already the largest co-creation platform we have in our company, but we are still growing. What we are really proud of, what we achieved in the last 1.5 years, and also how we also started to think over how to act as an organization, how to act with this platform, this company, helped us also to raise the daily usage. we are now at a daily usage of 34%, which seems to be a bit small, but that we know another company which is similar to ours. They have a daily usage of 18%, and they were kind of some steps ahead. So that's why we are kind of proud a little bit of this number, and we see that a lot of people are using it more and more. But as you also can see, it's not about just the user convincing, hey, here's a good feature. It's about convincing them that they are in a totally different role as an employee that they now can create. Because 5 years ago, it was normally, they were just readers. And now they have a platform where they can create and co-create with different people, and also with people they are not familiar with. So they see in their activity stream people they've never seen. They are kind of surprised why those people coming up in their activity stream with the same topics they are working on. So this is the effect of an organization like this. So the redundancy is still there, but now people can see that there is kind of redundancy, but also the potential. What would happen if you could combine all those perspectives and all those experiences and knowledge you have in this company? And this is what this platform has changed. It changed the rules of this organization, how it acts and how it communicates. But it's also, we say, you and me is the heartbeat of the company. But that doesn't mean that if you can see what people are doing is everything great, you also see everything what's not so great about this company. And people really, they reflect or don't reflect really. They see this platform and say, okay, it doesn't work. But what they see actually is what doesn't work in this company. So you see, it started with with a project which you would call an intranet relaunch, but it's about a relaunch of the whole organization, and that's why it feels so huge and kind of complex. And we also have a KPI, or we developed a KPI in a holistic way, so we just call it quality index. We could also raise this by 6%, and we have 3 clusters what we are measuring. We just say there is a corporate quality, so that means how is the impact of this platform for the company and for the corporate strategy. We have a functional quality, so that means just basic how is the usability of this platform, the experience in just using it. And we have also a workplace quality, which means how it helps to create a new style of work, how it helps you to work in a different way. So one of the examples which really changed a little bit, and which is really about the people. I mean, we had a lot of high-level things and theories and so, but it's but we also we can see it and not feel it. What we also wanted to create is when we say everybody is a creator, we also say why not say everybody could be a developer, because we have a big company with a lot of people who are able to develop, but they are not in IT department. So they have different roles or tasks in this company. And it started because a colleague of mine has shown me a project made by a trainee. It was completely illegal by terms of compliance, but he just hacked into our intranet and built a whole process on this platform. And I was really kind of impressed and asked myself, okay, how we can make this kind of in a legal framework, but also how we can, or are there others like him who are also doing stuff like this? And that's why we also created, through this organizational model, what Dennis presented, the idea that partners are not just business owners or application owners in our company, but basically also are developers who just have ideas or just want to make something a little bit better for their workplace. And our proof of concept was a hackathon. I mean, we did a lot of hackathons. It's not something special, but in this case it's special for us because it was the first hackathon for our company itself, so that people are able to influence their own digital workplace. And we invited teams from 8 different countries. We just wanted to learn how a developer community could function. So what is the framework, what kind of technology you need. Are there people who are interested in that? And in just 6 weeks, we set up a hackathon, of course, on the intranet itself. And they had 24 hours to create new features. And one of these features will be implemented in the next week. So it's totally a feature built by these hackers. And this is kind of an interesting thing, and also showed us that the idea of a developer community could really work, and this invitation to an ecosystem also could work in this style. And yeah, I want to finish with a small story, because social intranet or intranet just really, it's something, so it sounds so technology, so corporate, so that everything is for the company or for customers and stuff like this. But something happens, and when we introduce this kind of intranet where everybody can create something, we didn't have goals in our mind or something which could be achieved. What we wanted is to change the whole game of the organization. So that means every time something happens which is kind of a surprise. And this story began with a customer which has searched on eBay for this puppy. It was a merchandising article or a merchandising product of Deutsche Telekom, and it was also the most lovely toy of this child. And the child lost this puppy, and the mother has searched for it on eBay, asked people around, and then she addressed our customer service at Facebook. And of course we don't have a database for puppets, so that means our colleague just went to the platform and asked, with a status update, the question, who knows this kind of puppet, can I find it anywhere? And people just started to make a ping pong thread. So they mentioned other colleagues and said, maybe you know this kind of thing. And after some hours, someone told, yes, I have not just one, I have 2 of them. And that's why we have now this trophy on the one hand, but also now a very happy child and a very happy customer. And why I'm telling the story is also because it's a wonderful example that you can manage and make a lot of things efficient, but always there are things happening which you can't control, and then you need the power of connection or networks in your company. And if you give those people a good platform, they will do great things, and from that a company can also have of course something nice, because it's a great PR story. So thank you very much for your attention, and follow us on the internet.